My fiance asked me to sign a prenup, with which I have no problem. I received a copy of it on Monday, and I showed it to my friend, my fiance's cousin, because she was curious, and she's the only person I know who has any experience with prenups. Reading the prenup is how she discovered something she was supposed to inherit has already been given to my fiance, and nobody told her. She's understandably upset, and it's causing a lot of drama in their family. Everybody knows she found out because of me, and they're upset with me and blame me for the drama. My fiance's dad asked me why I showed it to her, and when I explained that I wanted her opinion, since I didn't have any experience with prenups, he told me that's what the lawyer was for, rudely. My fiance did defend me, but even he's upset that I showed her, since he thinks the prenup should have been kept between us. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Get your own lawyer. Do not expect the lawyer who prepared the document for your fiance and his family to represent you. You've learned something more about how that family operates. First, they keep secrets from one another. If no one had done anything wrong, there wouldn't be anything to hide. Yep, they not only keep secrets, but they also break promises and cheat a relative out of their inheritance. The family worked collectively to keep this secret from his cousin, and then blamed her when the secret got out. OP would be wise to reconsider joining this family. If they screwed her, they might screw you. Agree, they got caught red-handed. They're blaming you for their lack of responsibility and possible shady dealings. You need to discuss a prenup and get opinions from your family and friends, including an attorney. You need their advice and an objective opinion. They may see something you don't, and they have your best interest at heart. If your fiance and his family disagree with this, it begs the question of what they have to hide and what other expectations they have of you in the future. I need to disagree with you. OP does have her own lawyer. That's the only person you should be discussing it with. It was inappropriate for cousin to even ask. I don't think OP intentionally did something wrong, but I don't think everyone has had a prenup. I did. I had to list every single one of my assets: home, bank account and amounts, investments and amounts, retirement account and amount. That information should not be circulated. Are any of us cool with our cousin or our partner's friends knowing the details of our banking information, much less knowing every valuable inside your home? That's where OP screwed up. Cousin can provide zero useful information in the negotiation process. Cousin has no need to know gifts that were given to fiance, and the cousin really doesn't need to know the details of a contract between two people about to be married. It's like if OP gave a detailed rundown of fiance's performance on their wedding night. Some information should not be shared. OP, however, innocently screwed up, and she's an idiot. Agreed, you are the idiot, because you showed it to her. You're doing yourself such a disservice here that you're acting like an absolute idiot to yourself. You should have an attorney review it. Pay an attorney for 1 hour of their time to review and advise. Use that thing inside your skull we call a brain. A prenup is supposed to protect both parties. You have the right to advocate for yourself. Don't be an idiot to yourself. Instead, take a step to protect yourself. This should be your concern, not a bitter cousin. My husband's nephew is the middle of 3 kids and has a sensory processing disorder. This impacts how he eats. His diet is far more strict and limited than others in the family, and he rarely gets to eat a full meal outside of his home because most people will just expect him to eat whatever they're willing to provide. With the help of my husband's sister and brother-in-law, my husband and I have always made sure he has a meal when we host a family dinner. We even went out and bought dividing plates so that he could have a safe meal since he couldn't eat food that touched each other. Typically, 2 dinners will be made, one that everyone else will enjoy, and that tends to be popular, and then one with his safe foods. My sister-in-law and her husband have always been so happy to have someone in the family who wants to make their son feel important enough to include in that way, and to make him feel less strange, because his parents have to bring snacks for him to other people's houses normally. Not all of the family has been understanding of nephew. Dear husband's other sister has commented that nephew is coddled and should be eating healthier and more expansively than he does, and that her sister and brother-in-law are letting their kids rule the roost. Their other two kids don't eat the same as the nephew. They have larger diets that are more in line with what she thinks he should be eating. And I pointed that out to her before, but she thinks her nephew is just as capable as his siblings. Sister-in-law and mother-in-law, the last time we hosted, complained that nephew had such a full meal made for him when they also had a full meal made for them. My husband told them he deserved a full meal. They said if he could get noodles, they should be able to get them too. I replied that we only made enough for nephew. They told me they wanted noodles. Nephew was upset, so my husband told his mom and sister to knock it off. They suggested we take the noodles from nephew and give them to them. My husband said that they could leave if they kept it up. After dinner, I told them they were not getting nephew's safe foods and that everything provided in their meal was their preference, so why were they acting like that? They said it was rude to provide food at a dinner party that not all of the guests could eat. I said they don't mind doing that every time nephew eats at their house. They told me it was different. I told them to accept the food we provided for them or they didn't need to come, but I wouldn't take for my nephew to give to them. They said I was a rude host and inappropriate. My husband made them leave. Am I the idiot for this? Next time you host, serve nephew's bland, safe foods to everyone. When people question it, tell them that mother-in-law and sister-in-law insisted that it was rude to serve nephew a different meal, not provided to everyone. Since nephew cannot eat what you would have provided for everyone else, it naturally follows that the only way to make mother-in-law and sister-in-law happy is to serve everyone the food that your nephew can eat. Bon appetit, and be sure to thank mother-in-law and sister-in-law for simplifying the menu for everyone. Don't forget to ensure that the portion sizes are the same. Get matching divider plates and kitty cutlery too. We have to be fair, you know, and since your nephew couldn't possibly finish an adult portion, everyone else would have to eat smaller portions as well. You are so unbelievably not the idiot in this situation. Good on you and your husband for being good humans. I can't believe some people would act so childishly. I'm so happy your nephew has people in his corner. Don't stop fighting for him. My wife has sensory issues. She's never been to a doctor for these issues, so it's truly self-diagnosed. She thinks that since she hates loud noises and doesn't like to be looked at, that she has sensory issues. Not trying to discredit her, but it's over the top on some days. She gets super overwhelmed and irritated if two people are talking at once. Or as mentioned above, if anything or anyone is looking at her, she gets self-conscious and angry. On to the real issue. I got a dog about a year ago. Her name is Lola and she's a corgi. She's very energetic and needy, but training is going well. My wife has a cat whom we've had for like 4 years, I believe. She's always had a problem with my dog. The reason being is the fact that my dog is needy. She loves being touched. She wants to follow us everywhere. She whines when she wants attention. She'll sleep on any article of clothing we have on the floor that has our scent before sleeping on her dog bed or in a kennel. She constantly sniffs the air or floor whenever we eat, and often sniffs the trash can or litter box. But my wife has an issue with most of these behaviors, mostly the whining, but due to her resentment from the whining, she takes issue with the dog sleeping on our clothing or even sniffing around when we have food on it. It irritates her to no end. So whenever the dog starts sniffing us when we eat, my wife uses an irritated tone to tell her to get out of the room. Or whenever my wife sees her sleeping on our clothing, she immediately takes the clothes away and says she's sick of constantly having dog hair on her clothing. I could almost understand if she didn't get as angry as she does. On to the big problem. Yesterday we ate dinner in our bedroom while watching a movie. As soon as Lola saw we had food, she came out of her kennel and started sniffing the air and deadpan staring at us while we ate and whined a few times. My wife starts fidgeting but doesn't say anything. Lola started inching closer to us while staring at my wife because my wife was closest. Finally, my wife looked at me and said, "You want to speak to her, since you get angry whenever I do?" I told her to just ignore it and act like she wasn't there. So my wife just gets up with her plate and says, I don't want a dog staring at me while I'm eating. I don't even like it when people stare at me. So why should I change my feelings or fake it till I make it to accommodate your dog? I told her she was being unbearable. She takes off and doesn't come home. I'm being told I'm an idiot for disrespecting my wife's feelings. Am I the idiot? ETA. My wife wants to get into therapy, but we're trying to save for our house, so it's my fault that she hasn't gotten it. I have mentioned a few times whenever she suggests therapy that we are trying to save for our house, so that it's my fault that she hasn't gone yet. She will get her therapy eventually, however. As for the clothing on the floor issue, my wife is very tidy. None of her clothing is ever originally on the floor, but mine is. Lola reaches up, takes my wife's clothing off the hooks in her closet, and makes nests out of them. We do not have a closet door. You are the idiot. I was on your side at first, but I've changed that. You won't let your wife seek professional help for her issues because you want to save for her house instead, even though professional help would change her life. You got a dog you were pretty sure she didn't even want, and now you're not training her. Get a divorce. You clearly don't like your wife, much less love her. Exactly. Train your dog not to beg. Your dog shouldn't be approaching you and staring at you while you're eating. Your wife has legitimate struggles, and your response is to label them as complaining and to prioritize your dog's comfort over your wife's. Wow. True, and they can both, gasp, pick up clothes off the floor so the dog doesn't sleep on them. Have they never heard of a hamper? It sounds like OP needs a dog trainer who trains the dogs and the humans. And yes, a good trainer does that. I, 23 female, just got out of a long-term relationship with Mike, 24 male. We dated for 2 years. We did mid-distance, so we didn't see much of each other. There was a miscommunication, and I cheated on him with a friend. He found out via a mutual friend, so we called it off. I know what I did was wrong, but this isn't about that. Mike left a few things at my house and asked me to visit him, or at least meet me halfway to drop them off. I refused. Why should I travel for hours to drop his things off? He also said that because he spent so much money visiting me toward the end of our relationship, throughout we traveled 50-50, but I could never find the time to go to him, so he came to me and said he didn't mind, that I should be willing to do this. I still maintained my position and told him I wouldn't be traveling. Then he asked me to mail his things to him, but because of the value of the items, I refused, as I didn't want the blame if they got lost in the mail. I was venting to my friends, and they said that this is a selfish thing to do. While it's understandable, I don't want to travel and see him, especially when he asked me to mail them and cover the cost, so I don't need to travel. So, am I the idiot? OP, you are a huge idiot, and had moved on from him the moment you cheated, and now you want to be more of an idiot and not send him his property, but make excuses that don't hold water. You're a toxic, self-centered person. Do one good thing for someone in your life and send them back his stuff. I'm sorry, but I'm still stuck on, there was a miscommunication and I cheated on him. Imagine cheating on someone, then doing all sorts of mental gymnastics to justify it, then stealing their stuff because you're too lazy to drive it to them, and then coming on here thinking you're in the right. Given her attitude, I don't think OP will become a nice human being anytime soon. What are you talking about? There was just a simple miscommunication where she tripped and fell into another man's bed. I'm sure she's a saint. OP, you're just making excuses now and trying to get revenge for him ending it, even though you cheated. Find some decency within yourself and do the right thing. My sister is 2 years younger than me. We share the same birth month. This is relevant because when we were born so close together, my parents took it as a sign that we were bonded in some extra way and meant to be more than sisters. They dressed us alike and had us do everything together. They pulled me out of mainstream school to homeschool us after the school refused to allow lunches and recesses for our classrooms to happen simultaneously, so we'd be eating and playing together. I was homeschooled for 5 years before they had to put me back due to an undiagnosed at the time learning disability. Then they enrolled my sister in school when they realized homeschooling would not work for me. We both had friends, but my sister was a bad friend because she would always put me before them, would dump them without notice if our parents had us spending time together, and more than once, she forced them to let me hang out with them. My sister loved how our parents raised us. I hated it. We shared a bedroom despite being the only kids and having a 4-bedroom house. We were in the same extracurricular activities per our parents' insistence. We had joint birthday parties every year. We had to prioritize each other before friends, meaning if our sibling wasn't welcome at a party we were invited to, the person asked didn't get to go. I got my freedom when I moved out and started college. It was weird at first. I wasn't used to freedom, and college was a struggle for me because of my learning disability, but I loved it. I thrived on it. I never once missed my sister or my parents. She assumed she would move in with me once she started college, but I said no. I had already cut our parents off at that point and had been in low contact with her, but she still pushed it. I didn't give in, and now 2 years later, she's decided that she's done with college and we should live together and resume things like before. I told her no. I told her countless times that it would never happen. She kept pushing and pushing, so I told her I didn't want to go back to the way we were before. I never wanted to live with her again, and I didn't enjoy all the things she talked about missing from before. I told her I would not change my mind, and that she needed to move on. She was crushed. I knew she'd be upset. It was my only choice to get her to back off. She cried that we're sisters, and our relationship had been so good before. I told her it was only good in her eyes. She called me a lousy sister and ended the call. A few days later, she decided I needed to apologize and work on returning to how we were. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot at all. The way your parents raised you is truly bizarre. Even twins are two separate people with separate personalities, habits, likes, dislikes, etc. It would be best if you had been free to have time and privacy, different birthdays, friend groups, etc. As soon as I read More Than Sisters, I thought, uh-oh. Not to mention, what is more than sisters? Conjoined twins? Matching outfits are cute on little kids, but after a certain point, everyone moves past that. All very bizarre parenting behavior, and I'm so sorry for your experience. No one should hate their childhood. That's not a relationship, sibling or otherwise. That's toxic codependency, like Sam and Dean level codependency. You don't need to get back to how you were. You need to cut your whole family out, sister and parents both. They created and fostered this unhealthy dynamic, permanently warping you two. She seems to actively need said dynamic, which is not her fault, but that's not on you. Your parents are responsible, and they need to take the blame. The best thing you can do for her is to stay away. Don't apologize. Don't get back into contact. She has to hurt before she can grow, and she has lots of growing to do. Growing that can't happen if you're still a part of her life.